This step-by-step service tutorial will guide you through the removal and installation of the Danfoss Turbocor Skip 613 inverter driver board. Safety precautions must be observed during installation, startup, and service of the compressor due to the presence of pressure and voltage hazards. Only qualified and trained personnel should install, start up, and service Danfoss Turbocor compressors. Before performing any service on a Danfoss Turbocor compressor, electrical power must be isolated. Turn off the mains input power to the compressor and tag out the mains disconnect. Confirm that the AC voltage is isolated. Wait at least 20 minutes for the DC bus capacitors to discharge. Remove the top cover, taking particular care not to touch any components underneath. Then, using an appropriately rated voltage meter, check the DC bus bars for DC voltage level. If the voltage is above 5 volts DC, wait 5 minutes and recheck until voltage is below 5 volts DC. First, disconnect the soft start ground cable from the ground post. Remove the fasteners holding the soft start and turn it over to disconnect the AC/DC and the SCR cable harnesses. Disconnect and remove the AC/DC cable harness from the AC bus bars and the DC/DC. Carefully pull the SCR gate cable harness free of the SCRs. Remove the screws that hold the AC bus bars to the SCRs. Remove the bolts from the mains input bracket and lift it from the standoffs. Remove the snubber capacitors. Remove the nylon nuts and pressure relief foil from the capacitors at the base of the compressor. Remove the DC bus screws from the SCRs. Carefully lift the DC bus capacitor bank from the compressor as a unit. Do not disassemble the capacitor bank assembly. Disconnect the cable from the inverter. Remove the copper tubes from the motor bus bars. The motor bus bars may be removed for inverter testing. To remove the inverter driver board, begin by removing one screw from the corner of the inverter, then remove the opposite corner screw. Continue removing the corner screws, followed by the center screws. Carefully lift the driver board vertically from the inverter press plate to ensure the spring pins are not damaged. The inverter spring pins must only be replaced if they are damaged. Do not remove any of the spring pins if there is no damage. If necessary, insert the new spring pins carefully and be sure that they line up in the press plate notches. Be sure the correct length pin is used as there are 2 different lengths. Note: use extreme care when removing the new driver board and cover from the packaging. The cover snaps into place over the driver board but could separate. Be sure to hold both to avoid dropping the driver board if separation occurs. If they do become separated, carefully snap the cover back into place prior to assembly. ESD protection must be worn when handling the driver board. Insert 2 screws in opposite corners of the driver board for proper alignment during installation. Align the new driver board over the press plate with the cable connector toward the motor tower. The shape of the driver board must be aligned with the IGBT press plate shape. Moving in a vertical direction only, lower the driver board down on the IGBT press plate and align the screws into the correct locations. Do not allow for any lateral movement. Any lateral movement may damage the spring pins. Insert the remaining screws and tighten them, starting at the center and working outward in a crisscross pattern. This will be the first pass, and the screws should only be snug at this point. Using an appropriately rated torque wrench, tighten the screws from center outward to 1.5 Newton meters or 13 inch-pounds. The tightening sequence will be the same as the first pass. Using an inverter tester, verify proper function of the inverter with the new driver board in place. Install the copper tubes that connect the motor bus bars to the inverter. Torque to 14 Newton meters, 10 foot-pounds. To install the DC bus capacitor assembly, first ensure the compressor cable harness and the HVACR temperature sensor cable is in place across the cooling manifold and connected. Place the DC bus capacitor assembly on the compressor so the nylon threads are through the holes in the bottom of the housing and the bus bar holes align with the HVACRs. Loosely install the snubber capacitors and screws. Loosely install the screws that secure the DC bus bars to the HVACRs. Tighten the snubber screws first, starting with the snubber closest to the capacitor bank. Torque to 7 Newton meters or 5 foot-pounds. Then tighten the DC bus screws to the HVACRs to 7 Newton meters or 5 foot-pounds. Install the foil and tighten the nylon nuts at the base of the DC capacitor assembly, located under the main compressor housing. Using needle nose pliers, carefully install the HVACR gate cable harness to the HVACRs. Ensure the harnesses are in the correct location. Install the AC mains input bus bars. Install the AC-DC cable harness to the DC-DC, mains AC, and DC bus bars. Install the soft start. Connect the soft start ground wire to the compressor ground post. Tighten the nut to 7 Newton meters or 5 foot-pounds. Connect the mains input ground to the compressor ground post. Tighten to 15 Newton meters or 11 foot-pounds. Inspect all connections. Install the topside covers. This concludes the Danfoss Turbocor Skip 613 inverter driver board removal and installation presentation. For more information on Danfoss Turbocor products and service documentation, please visit us online at turbocor.com.